Hi, I'm Greg Walters, the Exhibits Director at Sternberg Museum. Welcome to A New Way to Museum. Today we're going to be talking about the process of changing out traveling exhibitions. Environmental Impact was an art exhibit that focused on environmental issues, so whether it be pollution, climate change, wildfires, a variety of issues. Okay, it was a multi-artist show. We had paintings, we had photography, we had sculpture. The first thing that we had to do was do a condition report on all of the artwork. Typically when art exhibits come in, when they arrive, we do a condition report on all of the pieces so that if there's any damage that was there before it got here, we're not responsible for it. And when we send it away, we do a condition report again so that we document in case anything has happened while it was on display. Okay, packing environmental impact was also somewhat of a challenge, again, because it's a multi-artist show. So each artist had created their own works. So they all used different methods, and we had to pack them back the way that they were. Some of them were really well done, others were not quite so well done, and it was a challenge to get the pieces back in. But you take them down, we moved them over, like the paintings, we moved over to a padded table to work on. Typically they are wrapped first, and then the wrapping goes into a padded crate of some type, and then that has to get all sealed up as well. Yeah, that was the largest piece. That was actually an installation piece that was in the show. It consisted of a giant basket and some large glass ears of corn and a variety of small glass pieces. It dealt with genetic modifications of crops was the topic that it was covering. That one came in a couple of large crates. The small pieces were wrapped and put into smaller boxes that then went into the larger crates. They had a system set up for handling the large corn pieces, which were like 3 feet long. They had a eyelet already made in some of the pieces and a rope that we would run through with a knot in it so we could pick these pieces up and drop them in through the top of the crate. But that required climbing up on top of the crate to get the pieces in. We had to inventory all of the pieces. To clear the gallery, one of the things that we had to do was drop the temporary walls that we had set up for environmental impact and move those into storage. That left the gallery open for the Age of Dinosaurs exhibit. The layout for Age of Dinosaurs is something that we had planned. The company that toured it sent us specs for all of the pieces that would be going on display. So we sort of looked at the topics that they were covered, look at the space that they took up, and in Illustrator I have some blueprints of the gallery. So I basically moved the pieces around, planned for spaces, looked at the types of things that they were going to be doing. There's a few places in the exhibit where we expect people to sort of congregate, so we tried to separate those out and distribute those through the gallery, keep some of the heavy activities away from other heavy activities. Okay, the exhibit was set to be delivered at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. The technician from Kokoro was arriving the day before and would be there to help us unload the exhibit at 8 o'clock in the morning. On Monday, when we got to work, we were looking at the weather forecast, and it was going to be cold and raining all day on Tuesday. I had gotten a call from the truck driver about 7:30 in the morning, and he was at that point 6 hours away. He was calling to see if he could park at our lot. So we made arrangements for him to arrive early because he was close enough that he could do that. We actually went and got the forklift and we unloaded it without the technician. We were really hoping the tech could be here because he knows his exhibit really well. He knows how to pack it onto the forklift and get it in, but he wasn't going to be here until that evening. So we were expecting that we would be here late into the evening because the exhibit didn't arrive until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But it actually went a whole lot faster than we were anticipating, and we got it into the building in about 2 hours. Yeah, there were lots of challenging parts. The truck that arrived actually did not have a lift gate, which is sort of like a little elevator that comes off the end of a semi-truck. And we use that a lot of times because we have to take it out with a forklift. Some of the crates were longer than the bed, than the back of the trailer is wide, so they were in lengthwise. It makes it hard to reach in and pick it up with a forklift. The place that it was loaded had a loading dock, which we do not have, so they just rolled it straight on in. In this, normally what we will do in a case like that is we will pick up the long end with the forklift, pull it out onto a lift gate, then lower everything down to the ground, take the forklift back up and come and pick it up from the long side so we can pick it up. We couldn't do that with this one, and so it was, some of the loadouts were a little tricky. These are all robotic dinosaurs. There's Stegosaurus, Protoceratops, T-Rex, Apatosaurus, Chasmosaurus, and they're pneumatic, which means they run on compressed air. So we have a very large compressor down on the first floor of the museum, and we have hoses running up through the walls to come out into the gallery. We actually purchased that compressor specifically for a previous Kokoro exhibit that we had several years ago, and we've used it several times since then. So we have to bring the pieces in, attach all the air hoses, the lights and the sounds for the dinosaurs all are electronic, so those need to get plugged in and turned on. Backdrops need to be hung behind them before we do a final placement, and then there's ground covers that cover the bases of the robots. So we have those. We have several interactives. We have some photo ops for people to photograph themselves with a T-Rex head or with a Triceratops head. And we have a dig pit for kids to climb in and dig for fossils. There's also one other piece. There's a pteranodon that is not robotic, but it hangs from the ceiling. Unfortunately, in our galleries in the dome, we don't have great places to hang things from. So we ended up hanging that one in our lobby. Keo did most of the setup of the pneumatics and getting those set in, working on the details of the animatronics. I was hanging up the backdrops, and also we were required to supply our own barricades, which we had to modify some barricades that we had to actually fit the space. Also, the barricades that we had initially had just one rope going across the center. We really didn't want little kids in the exhibit, so we added a second layer on that to try to keep kids out of the exhibits that they're not supposed to be in. We'll see how well that works. And then miscellaneous other things. I actually was up on the lift hanging the pteranodon in the lobby. Yeah, when we were hanging the pteranodon, one, I assumed that the wire rope would come with the exhibit. It turns out it did not. So we scrounged around to see what we had, and we didn't have enough stuff, so we went had to run to the hardware store to get more parts in order to hang it. We used an airlift to get us up to the ceiling because it's a little over 18 feet high. That runs on cylinders of CO2. We had to find attachments that had been installed above the suspended ceiling for a previous exhibit, because there are not that many attachment points that are secure for holding heavy things. Fortunately, the pteranodon is only 40 pounds, so we could rig up a system where we had a cable that ran horizontally between a couple of attachment points, then run a second cable down from a midpoint there, and then additional attachment points to keep the Pteranodon from spinning once it was hanging. You know, this is going to be a really popular exhibit. I was getting calls all week during setup from people who heard it was coming, wanting to know exactly when it opened. Fortunately for them, we were actually, I could tell them, well, we officially opened on Saturday, but we're going to be done early, so you can come here early. And we had lots of people before we opened. The exhibit runs through Labor Day, so come out and see it, enjoy. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for joining us in A New Way to Museum with the Sternberg Museum of Natural History. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell for notifications when we release a new video. Support us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. You can also follow us on all our social media. Links are found in the description. Thanks for watching, and follow your curiosity to new discoveries.